Welcome to Play, Talk, and Grow. So your child is talking and they have a lot of language, but you're not able to understand what they're saying. That's a very frustrating place to be as a parent and for your child. So I want to help you navigate when is it time to call a speech therapist. On my website, I've included a few charts that will help you understand the developmental norms for articulation. The first is a sound development chart. It goes by age and it shows you the sounds the child should be producing by their age. So if you look at this chart, you say, okay, my child's 3 and they're not able to say K's and G's yet, and they're not able to say D or P, then that would indicate that your child may have a speech delay and could need a speech and language evaluation. So use that chart. It can vary. So some children will produce these a little bit later, some earlier. It just depends. But it's a great go-to for you to measure, okay, my child can't say these sounds, or, oh, well, yeah, they say those sometimes, so maybe we're okay for right now. But as your child grows older, you want to keep an eye on their articulation, because just because they can say it at 3, you want to see if they're still building and adding more sounds. You want them to continue to get more intelligible the older they get. So by the time they're 5, 6 years old, they should have close to adult-like speech. It should be very intelligible. They may miss an R or a TH or an L, but in general, you should be able to fully understand their speech. There's another chart on my website that's called the Phonological Processes chart. These are common processes that children produce when they're learning speech. So they may eliminate final sounds in words. So for cat, they might say cat. Or they might simplify a cluster, like for stop, they might say top or sop. Those are really common processes and a part of learning articulation and sounds, but they do get eliminated. So your child by the age of 3 should have begun to produce final sounds. They should stop eliminating those sounds and be able to produce those simple word forms of cat and dad. By the age of 4 or 5, they should start producing clusters and be able to say stop or spoon. Those processes should start to be eliminated. And if they're not, that's another sign that you might need to call a speech therapist. While you're playing with your child at home and you want to focus on their articulation, you want to focus on the sounds they're saying. So with the help of a speech therapist, you'd be able to target, okay, these are the sounds that my child isn't able to say, and this is what I need to work on when we're playing. If you haven't seen a speech therapist yet, then listen to your child. Try to figure out what sounds are they missing and try to work on them. You're not going to work on an R or an L for a 2-year-old, but you might need to be working on P, B, or a D, T sound. And one of the first ways to do that is to try to get them to imitate you and isolate it to a single sound at first to see if they're able to imitate the single sound. When we're teaching articulation in therapy, we go from single sounds to syllables, to words, then phrases, sentences, and then conversation. There's a long progression to get your child from saying that single sound into conversation. So you want to begin first with that sound. Can they say p, p? Can they imitate you? Can they say da, da, or k, k, k? You try to make the sound and see if you get them to watch you, and they'll make it. If they can make that first sound, then you try it in a syllable. You try ba, or bo, or ba. And you want to think about the different syllable shapes. We have e, I, a, and all of those sounds. So you want to add those in to see if they can say those. You might try it at the beginning of the syllable or at the end. So great practice for the end is like words like up, on, in, at, to work on those sounds. See what your child is able to say. If you're noticing like, oh, okay, they always leave off that final sound, so you're going to over-articulate when you say it. Another strategy we use is slowing the word down and over-pronouncing it. So cat, do you hear that? Hear that t, cat, and see if your child can add the T on the end. When working on articulation at home, you want to be mindful. This is a frustrating activity for children. They may not want to repeat after you. They may not want to imitate because they already know it's hard. They know they're not saying the sound correctly and they may not want to try, and that's okay if they don't. Try to find a motivating activity that they enjoy to do that. It could be with food. It could be, my favorite little trick is those little mini chocolate chips. I will give those to clients for their sound practice. So I give them a little mini chocolate chip. It's a tiny piece of chocolate. It's fairly harmless, but it's a great way to get them motivated to practice the sounds with you. Playing in a mirror can be great work too, because they may not want to look at your face directly, but maybe side by side in a mirror, they may look and they may be able to imitate those sounds. Also, doing a little motor activities such as blowing bubbles or drinking through a straw where they have to round those lips, those can be great activities too. Overall, I would seek the advice and the help of a licensed speech therapist. When it comes to articulation, a lot of times children need that extra help. It's not something they can develop on their own, because if they could, then they would have. And I know that may not be what you want to hear, but it is my best advice. And whenever a parent asks me, hey, my child can't say this sound, what should I do? Call a speech therapist is always my answer, because we are the ones that are trained to guide you and your child in how to produce these sounds. We have lots of tricks to get it to work. And if your child is reluctant with you, they may be more inclined to work with someone else who isn't mom or dad. You guys are the safe place. You don't have to make them do the hard work until they really know how to do it. So I hope you found this helpful, and best of luck in working on your child's articulation. If you need help finding a speech therapist in your area, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you and see if we can find some therapy for your child.